Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. You know, AI is everywhere these days, but today we're going to tackle a question that's been on everyone's mind.
Yeah.
Can AI actually become better at problem solving than us humans?
It really does sound like a sci-fi movie.
I know, right?
But honestly, the research paper we're diving into today really suggests
Yeah.
it might be way closer than we think.
Absolutely. And that paper is from DeepSeek-AI, and it's all about their new model called DeepSeek-R1.
That's the one.
So what's so special about this DeepSeek-R1? Fill us in.
Well, DeepSeek-AI, they're known for pushing the boundaries with AI, right? And with DeepSeek-R1, they went for something pretty ambitious.
Yeah.
They want to teach AI to actually reason.
Rare.
And not like basic reasoning either.
Yeah.
We're talking complex problem solving, like the kind of stuff humans are, proud of.
Like what? Give me an example.
Like solving some crazy logic puzzle or figuring out a really complex math problem.
Yeah.
The kind of stuff that makes your brain hurt.
Makes your brain hurt. Okay, so to make it even harder, they decided to test DeepSeek-R1 on the AME,
Yep, the American Invitational Mathematics Examination.
which is...
This exam is super difficult, even for like math geniuses.
Really?
Oh yeah, even for humans who are like amazing at math.
So they're like throwing this AI into the deep end of problem solving
Yeah, exactly.
and seeing if it can swim.
Yeah.
I like it. But how do you even start to teach an AI to do that kind of reasoning?
Okay, so that's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
So traditionally, researchers have used this thing called supervised fine-tuning, where they feed the AI tons of data and they basically show it all the right answers.
So it's like giving a student a textbook and a bunch of practice problems.
Exactly like that.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Good.
But DeepSeek-AI decided to try something different for DeepSeek-R1, right?
They did. They decided to use reinforcement learning.
Okay.
And that's more about like letting the AI figure things out on its own
Oh.
through trial and error.
Through trial and error.
So imagine you're teaching a dog a new trick, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't like tell the dog exactly how to do it.
Right.
You just reward it when it does something, right? You're like, yes, good job.
So instead of giving the AI all the answers, they're basically giving it a virtual pat on the head when it starts to reason correctly.
Exactly. And to make things even more interesting, they created this model called DeepSeek-R1-Zero,
Okay.
which was trained entirely through reinforcement learning
Whoa.
with no supervised fine-tuning at all.
So no textbooks.
No textbooks, no practice problem.
Just the AI, a bunch of challenging problems, and a system that rewards it for getting closer and closer to the right answer.
It's like they just threw the AI into the wilderness and said, figure it out, kid.
Pretty much.
So how DeepSeek-R1-Zero did it learn anything?
You're not going to believe this. But just by letting the AI learn through trial and error and rewarding it for the right answers,
Yeah.
it went from barely passing the AA to absolutely acing it.
What?
It went from a 15.6% pass rate to a 71% pass rate. No way.
Yeah. That's the power of reinforcement learning.
So it basically taught itself to solve some of the hardest math problems out there,
Pretty much.
just by being rewarded for getting things right.
Yep. Yeah.
That's incredible.
And it gets even crazier. They use this technique called majority voting, where they ran the model like multiple times and took like the answer that it got the most.
Okay.
And with this technique, DeepSeek-R1-Zero's performance got even higher,
Oh, wow.
matching OpenAI's 010912 model.
Which is
That's one of the leading AI models out there.
So this AI is like going head to head with the best of the best.
I know, right?
And it's doing it all through this self-learning trial and error approach.
Exactly.
Starting to see why this is such a big deal.
Yeah.
But I thought you said that DeepSeek-R1 was the star of the show, not R1-Zero.
You're right. You're right. DeepSeek-R1 is like the main event. It builds on R1-Zero, but it tries to fix some of its like shortcomings.
Okay, so R1-Zero was like the raw talent.
Yes.
And then DeepSeek-R1 is the polished, refined version.
Yeah, like it went to AI finishing school.
Okay, so tell me more about this finishing school process.
Right.
What did they do to make it even better?
So they use this really smart combination of techniques,
Okay.
almost like an AI boot camp.
Right.
They started by giving it a little bit of a head start with some human-curated examples,
Oh, okay.
like giving a student a few basic formulas before they try to solve a complex equation.
Right.
They call this cold start data.
So a little bit of hand-holding at the beginning.
Yeah, just a little bit.
But then it threw it back into the reinforcement learning arena.
Exactly. They made it work on even more math problems, coding challenges, logic puzzles,
Really?
anything to just push its reasoning to the limit.
Wow.
But here's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
They use a technique called rejection sampling to make new training data from the model itself.
Hold on, so they're using the AI to create its own practice problems.
Yes.
That's like a student writing their own textbook?
It is. They basically let the model generate a ton of answers, and then they filtered them.
Okay.
And they kept only the ones that showed really good reasoning and accurate results, and these answers became part of the training data, so it's like the AI is constantly learning and improving.
Based on its own output.
Exactly.
That's crazy.
I know.
This AI is a real overachiever.
It is.
Well, wait, there's more to this training process, right?
There is.
There's got to be a final exam.
You're exactly right. So for the final exam, they did a round of supervised fine-tuning, but this time it wasn't just about reasoning. They wanted to make sure that DeepSeek-R1 could handle more than just problem solving. And then for the grand finale, they put it through another round of reinforcement learning just to really refine its performance all around.
Okay, so they trained it hard.
Yeah.
They made it think for itself. They even had it create its own study materials.
Pretty much.
All that work, did it pay off?
It did. DeepSeek-R1 went head-to-head with OpenAI's O1-1217, which is one of the top AIs out there.
Yeah.
And it did amazing.
Really?
We got comparable performance.
So all that training definitely paid off.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. So we have this AI that can solve these crazy hard math problems.
Yep.
It can write code, and it can learn on its own.
All by itself.
It's starting to feel like AI is catching up to us in the problem-solving department.
It really is.
But wait, you said they can distill this reasoning power into smaller, more portable AI models too?
Yeah.
Like shrinking the AI brain without losing any of the smarts?
It's like a genius in your pocket.
Whoa. Hold on, that's mind-blowing.
I know.
This is getting really, really interesting.
Yeah.
I want to know more about these smaller models.
Well, that's what we'll be diving into in the next part of our deep dive.
You've got me hooked. I can't wait.
Welcome back to the deep dive.
Thanks for having me back.
Ready to explore these pocket geniuses and what they can do?
You bet I am. I'm really curious after that cliffhanger last time.
I had to keep you coming back.
So tell me what's so special about these smaller distilled models. They can really tackle complex problems, just like their bigger counterparts.
That's the crazy part. They can. And sometimes they actually do even better than the larger models trained directly through reinforcement learning.
Really?
It's like they took a shortcut to being smart by learning from the best.
So how do they actually measure how good these AI are at problem solving? Big or small?
Well, they use these things called benchmarks.
Benchmarks.
They're kind of like standardized tests, but for AI.
AI SATs.
Exactly.
So tell me more about these benchmarks. What kind of problems do they actually cover?
Well, they cover all sorts of tasks
Okay.
to test different types of reasoning and intelligence.
Yeah.
Some benchmarks focus on really specific skills like math or coding,
Right.
while others test for like broader knowledge and understanding.
So it's not just about being a math whiz.
Right.
It's about being a well-rounded problem solver.
You got it.
Okay, so one benchmark they use is called the MMLU.
Yep. Massive multitask language, understanding. I know, right?
So it's like a super comprehensive test that covers a ton of different subjects.
It is like a decathlon for AI.
Okay, so it's not just about solving equations, it's about understanding language, connecting ideas, and applying knowledge in all kinds of different situations.
That's exactly it.
Okay, that's asking a lot.
Yeah.
So how did DeepSeek-R1 do on this mega test?
It aced it. Got a 90.8%,
Whoa.
putting it right up there with all the top performing models.
Okay, so this AI is officially smarter than me.
Maybe.
What about the smaller distilled models? Do they pass the MMLU too?
They did. Even those pocket geniuses showed really impressive performance on the MMLU
Huh?
and on a bunch of other benchmarks.
Really?
It's pretty remarkable how much of that reasoning ability they kept even after being compressed.
That's wild. Okay, but I'm also curious about the benchmarks that focus on those specific skills.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned math and coding.
Uh-huh.
So did DeepSeek-R1 get tested on those too?
Of course. For math, they used a benchmark called Math 500. And this one is designed to test mathematical reasoning specifically. And get this.
Yeah.
DeepSeek-R1 got a 97.3% pass rate.
Okay, now I'm really starting to feel inadequate.
No.
But let's move on to coding before I develop a full-blown complex.
Okay, so for coding,
What kind of benchmark did they use to test its coding skills?
they used Code Forces,
Okay.
which is a platform where programmers actually compete against each other
Oh, wow.
by solving all these like algorithmic problems.
So it's like the Olympics for coders.
Exactly.
So they're not just having this AI write basic code, they're
Yep.
putting it up against the best human programmers out there.
They are.
Okay, talk about high stakes. How to do
Well,
it.
it actually held its own. DeepSeek-R1 got a rating on Codeforces that puts it in the top 3.7% of human competitors.
No way. So this AI could probably get a job at Google.
Probably could.
So it can solve these complex math problems, right? Top-notch code, and it's got this broad understanding of different subjects. Is there anything DeepSeek-R1 can't do?
Well, like any good deep dive, there are always more layers to uncover.
Oh, come on.
But that's a story for our next and final part.
All right, you've got me on the edge of my seat again.
Good.
Let's do part 3. All right, welcome back to the deep dive.
We're back.
You've taken us on quite a journey with this DeepSeek-R1.
It's been a wild ride.
From learning how to reason to going up against, like, top programmers.
Yeah,
But I'm sensing you've saved the best for last.
maybe.
What does all this mean? Like, why should we care about an AI that can solve math problems and write code?
Yeah.
What are the real-world implications of all this? Does this mean robots are going to take over?
Well, that is the question everyone keeps asking, isn't it?
It is.
But I think the bigger picture is a bit more complicated than that.
Okay.
DeepSeek-R1 isn't really about replacing us.
Right.
It's more about, like, boosting what we can do,
Okay.
helping us solve problems in ways we never even thought of.
So more like an AI teammate
Exactly.
than an AI overlord.
Right.
Okay, that makes me feel a little bit better.
Good.
But I know the researchers mentioned some limitations with DeepSeek-R1. What are the things it still struggles with?
Well, even the most advanced AI, isn't perfect.
Of course.
One thing they're still working on is improving its general abilities beyond just reasoning.
Right.
So, like, DeepSeek-R1 is amazing at math coding and logic,
Right.
but it's not so good at stuff like having a conversation or
Yeah.
writing, like, a creative story.
So it's like this super smart but socially awkward genius.
That's a great way to put it.
Who needs some help with the whole communication thing?
Exactly.
Okay, what else?
Another challenge is language.
Yeah.
Right now, DeepSeek-R1 is mainly optimized for Chinese and English,
Mm-hmm.
so they're trying to expand its language abilities.
Makes sense to make it more versatile.
Yeah.
So anything else on the to-do list for DeepSeek-R1?
They're also working on making it a better software engineer.
Oh, okay.
Software development is really complex,
Yeah.
and even though DeepSeek-R1 can write code, it still needs work before it can, like, build complex software systems on its own.
So they've given it the tools,
Yeah.
but haven't taught it all the tricks of the trade.
Exactly.
That's got to be tough even for a really advanced AI.
It is.
Well, if anyone can figure it out, it's probably the DeepSeek-AI team.
Yeah, probably.
This whole field is so exciting.
It really is.
There's so much we don't know.
So many challenges.
But the progress is incredible.
It's amazing what they're doing.
I completely agree. But for me, I always come back to the bigger questions.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for us humans? If AI can reason, solve problems, even create,
Right.
does that change what it means to be human?
Those are the questions philosophers have been thinking about forever.
I know.
And now AI is making them even more relevant.
Yeah,
I don't think there are easy answers, but that's what makes it so interesting.
exactly. It's not just about the technology. It's about how it changes the way we see ourselves and the world.
Right.
And that's what we try to do here on the Deep Dive.
That's right.
Explore these big questions and encourage everyone listening to think critically about how these advancements are impacting us.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think we've given our listeners a lot to think
a
about.
lot to ponder.
From all the technical details of DeepSeek-R1 to like the philosophical implications of its
It's
success.
been a real deep dive.
It has been.
Yeah.
So what's the takeaway message for our listeners today?
I think the main takeaway is that AI isn't science fiction anymore.
Right.
It's here, it's evolving fast,
Yeah.
and it's already starting to change the world around us.
Yeah.
DeepSeek-R1 is like a really good example of that, but it's just the beginning.
Yeah.
AI has so many possibilities, good and bad.
Hmm.
And it's up to all of us to be part of the conversation and help shape the future.
Well said. I couldn't agree more. Thanks for taking us on this journey, and thanks everyone listening.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, stay curious and keep on exploring.